Trainers, which one of these Pokémon evolves into Seviper? Okay, trainers, if you chose Arbok, you were right.
Wait a minute, that's not right. You may have seen this here and there, the infamous clip from the anime that says supposedly Seviper evolves from Arbok, and as we know, that just isn't the case. But I would be lying if I said I didn't think this for a bit when I was younger. So Seviper, a poison-type snake Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. And then there's Arbok and its pre-evolution Ekans, poison-type snake Pokemon introduced in Generation 1. They seem close enough in concept, but when you put them side by side, they really don't look all that similar. Obviously, the misinformation stems mostly from this Trainer's Choice clip from the Advanced Generation anime, which was a segment that aired in the little commercial breaks, very similar to the Who's That Pokemon segment that we had before, which itself was very interesting and an iconic part of Pokemon. This was an adaptation from the Japanese version, which basically did the same thing with a different format, but the initial version of it basically ended with the first series. Meanwhile, in the English dub, they kept it going, but in Advanced Challenge, they decided to try something different. This series, called Trainer's Choice, posed trivia questions with multiple choice answers, and while it seems like a fun idea, there were a lot of mistakes here and there. Now, I am not going to go over every single one of these, but I will say that thankfully fans have categorized everything, noting that most of the technically now incorrect answers are the result of new Pokemon evolutions being added, as well as multiple Pokemon being potential answers for the question. There are also some misspellings where they get the Pokemon names wrong, like Onyx and Flaffy, which I guess are easy enough mistakes to make. But also there are some cases asking you which Pokemon would be the best choice in battle, only for the supposed right answer to not actually be that optimal. And again, I'm not going to go over too many of these because it's a lot to do, but I will say that the most egregious was asking which Pokemon evolved into Seviper. On paper, it seems like a very easy answer. Obviously, it's going to be the snake Pokemon, and that is what ends up being the correct answer, but the truth is that no Pokemon evolves into Seviper. It is a standalone Pokemon, added in Generation 3 alongside Zangoose. The two are meant to be a pair, mirroring the rivalry in real life of the animals that they're based off of, the mongoose and the snake, and we see that in places like the anime as well, later video games during Generation 6 with hordes where they'll actually attack each other, and even the debut video games where they were version exclusive, sort of a way to keep them separate but at the same time encourage you to trade. They were both single stage Pokemon as counterparts to each other, but at the same time I might not blame you for thinking that at first, especially if you were growing up around this time where we didn't really have internet access all that easily, especially because over in the anime, Jessie from Team Rocket would end up catching a Seviper and using it during the Advanced series, and she had been known to have an Arbok in the previous series, though you'll remember that a few episodes before she catches her Seviper, she and James actually release Arbok and Weezing to help out a bunch of coughing and Ekans. And let's say hypothetically you were a young kid watching the anime at the time, and maybe you missed the episode where Arbok was released, but jumped in later to see Jessie with a Seviper. Maybe you would assume the episode you missed had the Arbok evolving into Seviper, though that wouldn't really explain what happened with Weezing being replaced by Cacnea, but you know, just giving people the benefit of the doubt. Then later on in the anime, during a commercial break, you would get this Trainer's Choice here, and so then all the pieces come together. Oh, I see what happened, her Arbok evolved into a Seviper. Boy, I can't wait to do the same thing in the video game. Again, hypothetically, it feels like it might have made sense, because the previous games Gold and Silver did introduce a bunch of brand new evolutions for previous Pokemon, though that isn't really something that we saw during Generation 3. In fact, this one had no new evolutions, only some baby forms of Johto Pokemon, so it's not like Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald were completely detached from the previous generations. But if you weren't watching every episode of the anime and didn't understand the purpose of Seviper in the video games, and if you also believe the straight up misinformation that the dub gave you, then yeah, I would totally understand. Though I don't really blame the dub team too much for this accident, because if you don't know anything about the video games and are just tasked with making a bunch of trivia questions, then I guess it does make sense when you just look at the pictures. Funnily enough, in Pokemon Legends EA, there's a side mission that isn't necessarily a reference to this, but the point is in Lumio City, you can find this old man standing very proudly next to his Arbok, nicknamed Sevi, who he thinks is the best Seviper around, so the mission is to correct him by showing him a Seviper. And boy, it really does take him a while to understand it, but again, seeing these two Pokemon next to each other, you realize just how different they both are, in things like the overall size, the head shape, the posture even, if you can call that posture because they're snakes. I find it funny though that as you're continuing to talk to him, he tries to cope and suggest that maybe Sevi is a regional variant of Seviper. It very obviously isn't, but it's a funny reference to regional forms, and even then is also kind of a reference to how Arbok used to have different patterns on it depending on the game it was in, before it was eventually standardized. Too bad though, because I think that was a really fun idea to differentiate Arbok from different generations, and it would have been really cool to see them all transferred up into 3D and see the different patterns all next to each other. Well anyway, eventually the old guy realizes that Sevi is actually an Arbok, but at the end of it he isn't too bothered, mostly because Sevi says it's all all okay, it will even keep its nickname. And yeah, I know there isn't really a whole lot of depth to this mission, but I do just love that we got to see some sort of acknowledgement of the similarities between Arbok and Seviper. I honestly would have loved it even more if he really tried to suggest that maybe they were related by evolution, because that would have been a home run of a reference. But what can you do? Really, I'm just trying to figure out how this guy thought Arbok was a Seviper at all, because Arbok are the Pokemon that are appearing in the native Kalos decks, while Seviper are the Pokemon that are only available post DLC because they were coming through the Mega Dimension. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below about both Seviper and Arbok, and if you thought maybe they were connected originally, or maybe you'd like to see some other connection between the two at some point. I mean, design-wise, they look so different. They're based off a different type of snakes anyway, and as Pokemon, they both have completely different gimmicks. For the moment, I think that this is the farthest that their actual connection is gonna go in Pokemon, maybe aside from the fact that you're able to breed the two because they both appear in the same egg group, but beyond some sort of weird Mandela effect caused by somebody making a mistake when it comes to the anime dub, I think that these two Pokemon can coexist happily, as long as there are no Zangoose around. So like I said, leave a comment below, leave a like, subscribe, hype up the video, all that stuff, it helps a bunch. But for now, I should be heading off because the whole video was actually a lie. There's a secret item that allows you to evolve Arbok into Seviper, and it's a... Thanking every channel member for your continued support, including the great Gators, Miranda Ray, That's Ven, Impbrush, Mara, Jaza, Justin Dowes, Alex with Shiny Hunts, KoiKoi13, Cemetery Hill, Cheez-It62, GatorKid509, TF, Mathaclog947, Taijirai, Phantom, and Quago. If you'd like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, and our members Discord server, as well as the podcast, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I will catch you all later.
Can you believe it? On Saturdays, Pokemon is now on for 1 full hour!
Pika? Pikachu!
Oh, I forgot. That includes a brand new Pokemon episode.